You know, when the whole drama regarding Gina Carano first came out, there was a lot of nonsense thrown around on Twitter, obviously from both sides. And the funny thing is, what Gina Carano did, nothing deserved to happen to her, man. Like, it was just completely stupid, the responses she was getting against people who were against her, all because she decided to make a couple of statements they didn't disagree with. And she was probably one of the more prominent figures that were affected by what you would call cancel culture that initially started way back when and is now starting to die off as people realize you can't really cancel anybody who doesn't care about being canceled. But what are we talking about now? Well, apparently we have an article here from Bounding that says Gina Carano weighs in on the South Park joining the Pandaverse and reveals that Disney had asked her to unfollow certain accounts because they said bad things about Kathleen Kennedy. Now, the funny thing is, we say it all the time, man. Kathleen Kennedy must absolutely have dirt on the majority of Disney to still be around. There's no way that someone who is so notoriously hated by her own community, right? The people that she's trying to pander to, no pun intended, there's no way that someone who's so hated, who so obviously makes bad decisions regarding movies, TV shows, whatever, Lucasfilms, everything that she's in charge of, she absolutely destroys, okay? And she is not making the money for the company that she claims probably to be making. There's no way that she is still around without sleeping with someone or having dirt on them, right? And a lot of people make the comparison that Kathleen Kennedy is essentially the Hillary of Disney, and I believe that. I believe that 100%. So let's get into this article, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. It says, given her own personal history with the company and its notorious producer, it should come as no surprise to find that actress Gina Carano has thoughts on the South Park Joining the Pandaverse special and its criticisms of Disney and Kathleen Kennedy's ruinous obsession with identity politics. Just a quick shout out, I'm actually happy that Gina Carano is still doing her own thing regardless of whatever they tried to do to her, and honestly, I feel like it only made her bigger and more prominent in her own space, and that's good for her. It says, offering a rare criticism of the House of Mouse's ongoing creative implosion, Joining the Pandaverse begins with Cartman finding himself plagued with nightmares in which he and the rest of South Park citizens, for no reason and with no explanation, have suddenly been replaced by diverse women complaining about the patriarchy. The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway and then I see Butters, Cartman recounts to a therapist, and that's when I begin to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse? Honestly, like the new South Park episode, I made a video on it already. If you guys missed it, go check it out. It's on the channel. But it's an absolute win, right? Like what they did with South Park, as always, is just right on the nose. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how to make fun of people. And with South Park, they research pop culture before they make fun of it, right? So it's not like they're just talking out of their ass. No, they actually look into the stuff that they're about to make fun of to make sure that it is so accurate, that it's so on the nose. That's why it makes it funny, because when you watch this, you're like, yep, that's basically what's happening. And you can laugh at it even though you know that you hate it. Then it says, yet while the therapist dismisses these nightmares as nothing more than stress dreams stemming from his fear of being replaced by AI, which again, research, right? They must know what's going on with the strike and AI and writers and all that stuff, that they threw that in there, and that's what makes it funny. Cartman soon discovers that they were actually glimpses into the multiverse, the truth becoming apparent to him just as he and his diverse female counterpart, who herself was experiencing the same dreams but in reverse, are forcibly swapped into each other's universe. Meanwhile, as both Cartmans and their respective Stans, Kyles, and Kennys set out to correct this error, Bob Iger and the Disney board come to the realization that the version of Kennedy currently roaming their halls and greenlighting films, a Cartman variant whose core creative principle is put a chicken and make her lame and gay, is not their own. So that's basically it regarding the story of the Pandaverse. I'm not going to go too deep into that because, again, if you guys want to see it, you can just go watch the episode. I'm not going to take that away. It's a great episode. Go watch it. So now we're going to get into what happened with Gina Carano, what she actually said on Twitter, which I read. I think I retweeted it. I don't really remember, to be honest with you. If I didn't, I know I meant to, but I constantly look at so many things every day. But it says, ultimately ending on a cheeky note, Carano sarcastically concluded her tweet, but maybe, just maybe, the jig is up. So this is her tweet here. Gina Carano, it says, this is the part where Kathleen Kennedy demands any YouTubers get censored off of YouTube for sharing and laughing at this hilarious episode. She'll have YouTube disable the thumbs down option because of the ratio she'll receive. Then she'll have her publicist Ghouls make sure Variety and Hollywood Reporter run hit pieces about South Park creators and their families, smearing their names through every useful idiot she has under her thumb who would sell their soul to work for Lucasfilm. She'll activate her online mob to repeat that the South Park creators are racist, bigots, transphobes, and demand that the South Park creators publicly apologize by only using words she approves of. And finally, she'll demand they subject themselves to a re-education course of 45 people in the LGBTQ community Zoom call to sit there and listen of how badly they got their feelings hurt all over a little boop of a South Park episode. But maybe, just maybe, the jig is up. So again, it seems very clear that GINA CARANO has a lot of experience with Kathleen Kennedy. This whole tweet right here is basically on the nose, completely destroying her, because I am sure Kathleen Kennedy put GINA CARANO through this exact same thing that Gina is tweeting right now. So it's one of those like third person kind of jokes where she's making fun of it, knowing that this happened to her, but is obviously tying it to the South Park debacle. Now it says, unsurprisingly, while Carano's tweet was met with a wave of support and adulation from her fans, it also drew its fair share of criticism from her detractors. One such critique, though brief, came from the official Twitter account for the Around the Galaxy podcast, where an administrator informed their followers, in case you were wondering, GINA CARANO has lost her goddamn mind. Not what to take such swings lying down, Carano in turn proceeded to lay into the Star Wars-centric podcast, firing back, do you always call a woman crazy just because she has more first-hand experience than you and says something you don't like or understand? That's a bit misogynistic, don't you think? Tisk tisk. Curious if your overlords pay you, or do y'all just go ahead and shove your whole head straight up their ass for free? She then asked, I'm guessing for free, might want to come out for some fresh air. For some added context, not just for you, but for people reading, one of the things your overlords asked me to do was to unfollow certain accounts because they said bad things about Kathleen Kennedy. That was a huge red flag for me. If I were the head of one of the most powerful entertainment companies in the world, I would know that haters come with the territory, and that maybe the haters are expressing their thoughts because they actually care, and caring is a good thing, because as long as they care, well, hey, we still have something to work with. She further posited, maybe we can win their hearts back eventually, and maybe they do have some good things to add to the conversation, which they do, and they did, and at the very least, they are still buying the product. So that's a super long tweet, but ultimately, I agree with everything that she's saying. It's very obvious that you're going to have your shills for Kathleen Kennedy, you're going to have your shills for Disney. If they don't have mainstream access, they are trying to attain mainstream access, and I'm pretty sure that's what that kind of podcast is doing. They would love to have mainstream access, and if they can maintain their access, then they damn sure will. So they're not going to say anything bad about Kathleen Kennedy. They're not going to say the truth about what's happening at Disney. They're going to be literally surrounded by fire and keep telling everybody that this is fine, nothing is happening, everything is good. That's how these people act, and that's how you could tell who's a shill and who's not. So ultimately, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this is just an amazing example that GINA CARANO is prospering, and not only that, this is another example that the woke is absolutely losing. Disney has been thrown out there publicly by South Park and made fun of, and they know that a lot of normie people are going to be watching this episode who necessarily didn't know about the culture war, and they're going to realize like, oh shit, wait a second. This is what I've been thinking this whole time. You know how many normies out there? Do you have any idea, ladies and gentlemen, how many normies are out there thinking to themselves that they don't have any place that they can connect with people who are thinking the exact same thing they are? There are people out there who are in their mind against all this nonsense, all this woke nonsense, but they don't realize that there are YouTubers out there, there are platforms out there they can go to where people are talking about this. They don't know that. So when you have an episode like South Park that is so mainstream come out and talk about the culture war that's happening right now, you best believe that that's going to get a lot of people curious and interested in channels not just like this, but many others like it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.